is Wednesday, and it's time for Pop and Politics. We are talking about the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, and let me introduce you to my co-hosts. We have Yana, Avniel,
Hello.
and Shelly E. All right, join the conversation, as I always say, by leaving a comment on YouTube or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. If you miss us here on YouTube, you can catch us on Rumble. We are also, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under the same name, Pop and Politics. We are in independent media, and if you want to support what we do, your super chats and donations go a long way to helping us produce conservative content. Any amount is appreciated. Guys, this is not just a podcast. This is a movement of truth-seeking, God-fearing, America-loving people that understand there is a target on our backs because we value freedom. But yet we stand up for it. And so we appreciate you guys helping us by subscribing, by commenting, by joining us here every Wednesday night to amplify that rallying call for freedom. All right, everybody, let's set it off. So as you guys see here, we have a special guest co-host tonight, Avni. So Avni is the founder of the DMV, All About DMV Politics on Facebook. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes. And so we're going to have some great conversation tonight. You guys know we are generally on the right of issues. Avni is sort of to the left of us. So it should be some very interesting conversation tonight. All right. So we're
for joining us.
Yes.
Again.
Thank you, ladies, for having me.
Yeah. Thank
As
you.
your token leftist.
All right. right. But guess what? It's good to have a discussion on these things like this. You know, we shouldn't all stay in our corners. Mm-hmm. We're going to discuss the issues and have a great conversation. And it's nice to hear a different point of view. Even we may not agree, but it's still good to hear it and talk about these issues. All right. So as I always say, let's set it off. So we're starting out tonight with The View. Specifically, I want to talk about, they had a clip this week recently talking about Trump's trial, the new NYC trial with Stormy Daniels. I want to get into that. Before I do, I want to talk about the debate. So finally, these guys, Biden and Trump, have narrowed down at least 2 debates. So again, Biden reached out to Trump today, it looks like, and asked for a debate. Says here, he challenged former President Donald Trump today to face him in 2 debates while rejecting a proposed schedule from the nonpartisan commission that traditionally puts together a fall slate of candidate face-offs. Trump quickly announced he would accept the dates that Biden floated. And Trump responded. He says, I am ready and willing to debate Crooked Joe at the 2 proposed times in June and September. He continued. He said, I would strongly recommend more than 2 debates and for excitement purposes, a very large venue. Although Biden is supposedly afraid of crowds, that's only because he doesn't get them. Just tell me when, I'll be there. Let's get ready to rumble. That was Trump's response. Shelly, what do you think about that?
I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's all for show. I think it's a ploy, a plot, because I do not trust the left, the Democrats, that they're going to carry through with this. I think they have something up their dirty, funky sleeves.
Wow. Okay. What do you think, Yana?
I don't see it happening either.
Oh, no.
I just don't see it. Like, wow. How can Biden really engage anyone in the debate? It makes me think, like, are they going to insert, like, a chip somewhere in his brains and they're going to, like, speak to it? So he can say, like, he can't make sentences. He's a laughing stock of the whole world. I do not see him debating Trump.
What about you, Avni?
Well, I'm glad it's happening. Mm-hmm. Although I think that, like, everyone knows these guys already. Love them or hate them, either one. I don't think we even need a debate to, like, get to know them. But I'm glad it's happening for entertainment purposes, basically. Biden can get, in the State of the Union, he wasn't this bumbling, senile guy. He was kind of sharp and heckling with the MAGA Republicans back and forth. So Biden-Trump debate, version 1, version 2, should be fun. I just wish they would invite the third-party candidates, too. That would be nice. Get more on the stage so we can have some new faces up there, rather than these two old guys that we all either love or hate or already have a formed opinion on. To see Kennedy going after Biden and Trump, that would be kind of fun, I think.
Okay, that's a good point, though. That's a good point. So definitely we will be watching. As some of people, Shelly and Yana, don't think it's going to happen. Avni wants it to happen and to include the third-party candidates, RFK Jr. and other candidates. I think it's going to happen. I do. I think it is going to happen. I don't know if Biden is going to follow through, though, but I think that if he doesn't, he's going to look really bad if RFK and Trump get up there and debate and he's not there. So we'll see. We will certainly see. But moving right along, we want to move on to this NYC Trump trial. Big news out this week. Of course, Cohen took the stand. He took the stand this week, and it was crazy. Of course, The View, the ladies of The View were talking about it. Take a look at this or see what they had to say. This is, let me just see here.
Excuse me, sir. You want to talk about mental anguish? Let's talk about the cop that y'all beat the hell out of on January 6th. You want to talk about mental anguish? Let's talk about the kids who work in Washington, who are all over the Capitol, who you scared because you allowed all those crazy people to be outside screaming. This man brought this on himself. Nobody did this to him. And why aren't you in Washington doing your job? Why are you outside the courtroom? Don't you have a job?
Well, the aiding and abetting has been going on now. I mean, I even was surprised to hear all about Melania, because there's a whole new way to look at Melania now. Yeah. She's the one who called sexual assault locker room talk. She came up with that.
Yeah. That's what they're saying.
Yeah,
That's what Michael
Cohen allegedly, she came up with that whole idea. She's aiding and abetting, not loving. What do they say? To honor and what do they say in the
to obey, honor and cherish?
Yeah, well, she's just aiding and abetting.
Wow, lot to unpack there. Lot to unpack. So I want to start off with you, Shelly. Now, they mentioned something about mental anguish. Well, first off, I want to give you guys some backstory. They are talking about Trump had a lot of surrogates speak out at press conferences at the trial this week. Speaker Johnson was there. Vivek was there. Some Congress people was there. J.D. Vance, I believe, was there. So that's what Whoopi was responding to, saying they should go back to Congress. They should not be there at the trial. So, Shelly, what are your thoughts on what she said? First, about the cop, she said.
Okay, first she said something about kids. You ever notice how the left always and only uses kids when it's something bad? They use it for their own sick reasonings. They never use kids when it's something to keep the kids innocent and healthy and things like that. It's always something related to their sinister plots. That's number one. Number two, she's talking about the officers that were, what'd she say, was beat or whatever.
Yeah,
so, hold up, five people, and this was from the New York Times, right? 5 people died during or surrounding the events of the January 6th. It was not an insurrection. I'll say riot. Ashley Babbitt, Kevin Green, Roseanne Boylan, Benjamin Phillips, and then I think that Mr. Greason. Now, the cops, surprisingly, if not, they committed suicide, not necessarily on January the 6th. We know Ashley Babbitt was the only one who was shot by a police officer. Have you seen the left up in arms about that? No. And poor Officer Sitnick, it was proven that he was not beaten with a fire extinguisher. He died, I don't know how long later, but he died of natural causes, if I'm not mistaken, that the autopsy is coded as. So again, they are lying. They are convoluting things for their own sinister, evil plots. Remember, they will purport to be doing something good, but they are always destroying. They're lying. Whoopi is still full of it. Well, she's full of it, and she's just making up stuff as she goes along.
Yeah, I was surprised she said that. She made up the whole thing. No one died by the riots on that day.
It's really infuriating because I was in DC. I was there that day. And I did not do anything illegal. Majority of people did not do anything illegal.
Right.
There was no vandalizing. In fact, if someone saw anyone vandalize, they would stop that person. I have seen that with my own eyes. So she is lying completely. And about like Shelley said, the officer was not beaten. It was proven. In fact, all of those people who came out, they were very pro-police.
Right.
They were that was the whole movement. That was part of the movement. So these lies are just blatant lies. And the kids, what is she talking about?
Yeah, I don't know what she's talking about the kids. She said a bunch of kids that I guess go to school in Washington, D.C. were now afraid due to this January 6th riot. What are your thoughts here, Avniel? I mean, you heard what she said. Can you agree that nobody died due to the riot that day?
I didn't know we were discussing January 6th, but let's go. It's, The View, they sensationalize things a little bit. The kids being scared, that's just silly. Kids aren't scared to go to school because of January 6th.
Not because of January 6th, but they
For
should be.
mass shootings,
Schools were
They should
closed
be
at
public
that
here-
time.
But the one thing that I find, and I find this on the left and the right, is people in this day and age, in our hyper-partisan environment in the U.S., people are so hypocritical. I've seen on both the left and the right, they will not call out their own side.
Right.
And this is one of the things that the right is the most hypocritical on.
No.
There was, hold on, let me speak.
Tell us.
Let me speak. Let me just hear me out. Like you said, Yana said, the right is typically pro-police. And the fact that now that the right is trying to whitewash what happened on January 6th, I've seen videos, I post them to my Facebook group, my political group, all about DMV politics.
You post the ones that confirm your own beliefs.
Now what Yana said that the majority, I actually try to be relatively unbiased about things, even though I'm on the left, I call out the far left on certain things as well.
Okay.
What Yana said is true, that the majority of Trump supporters there were peaceful.
Okay.
Number one, that is true. Okay. It's only a few thousand we're talking about of over 100,000 people that were not. So
Over
at some so Tucker shows like, at some entrances, Tucker Carlson showed on the show, oh, police let people in. At some entrances that did happen because the police gave up. But then there are, so I take the whole thing and said, not everyone was violent. Police did let some people in, but there's videos and evidence that's unrefutable that police getting crushed in the door, police getting pushed back on their shields, hit with flagpoles. There was violence against police that day. Officer Sidwick died of a heart attack the next day from the trauma and the stress on his heart.
We don't know that. You can't put that on.
Stress cortisol is poison to the heart.
But that's part of the job.
And then
I work at a school and I get stressed every day because of
But-
little children.
but aren't you
Should
also-
I blame the little children
Okay.
if I get sick?
But that's part of the job.
It's part of the job.
It's true, but don't you all always tell us, the conservatives always say,
Wait a minute.
respect police, they have a hard job.
You can say I believe that because that's not what the autopsy said. You can say you believe that. I'm not denying that stress in those environments can cause someone's heart rate to accelerate. That's not what I'm saying. But you can say you believe that, but he died of a heart attack and it was coded as natural causes.
8 hours later.
Yes, CODA is natural cause. The stress does crazy things to the
You're
heart.
supposed to
3
have
police officers killed themselves.
Yeah. Go
All right,
ahead.
that's ridiculous. So the fact that the police in America cannot handle stress, that says a lot about the state of this country. So you
Well, I
better
would
be
agree
able
with
to
that. I would
handle
agree with
stress if you want to survive as a country. And if you're gonna feel sorry, that someone, or I don't know, if you're gonna blame the job of the police, then what is the point of having the police? The police is there to deal with stressful situations.
Right, that's true.
And I do not, I'm sorry that if anyone did hurt the police that
they
day,
were wrong.
absolutely I don't agree with that.
Thank you. I applaud you for that.
That was wrong.
That's all I want.
Absolutely.
I want each side to call it bad.
However, you mentioned some numbers. How many people were violent?
I'm talking, when I said a few thousand, I'm including the people, not all of them were violent. Those are about the people who went in.
I'm sorry, I was there. If there were a few thousand violent people, I would have seen that.
On average, we're talking about on average.
On average, that's still a very small amount.
I don't think about 1,000.
When there's over 100,000 people, Your Honor, you can't see everything. You can't see in the very
1,000 people.
The very front. It was the people at the very front who rushed into the Capitol, broke windows to get in, and ones that crushed the police in the door.
Couple
hundred.
Even if it was 1,000, if they were fighting the police, they were wrong.
We said that, but we've said this, but this is the issue here. The conservative media has always pushed back and said that this was wrong. Go home. This was the small amount of people that were there should not have acted outright rioting and damaging property and fighting police should not have done that. But we have never seen the leftist media push back against the BLM riots.
I knew you were going.
We have not. We have not.
They didn't even push back against this officer shooting Ashley Babbitt.
They have taken up for this over and over again.
The media was, I'm trying to remember if someone, it's a while ago, if someone in the media called out the rioters that went along, that took advantage of the BLM protests and whatnot.
What do you mean they took advantage? Most of them were doing it.
I went to a protest in D.C. and it was perfectly peaceful. It was, but then at night, where I worked, someone tried to break in and rob the place. Mm-hmm. So there are people who take advantage of all these rioting situations, and they're wrong. And some Democratic politicians did call them out, say peaceful protesting is okay, but breaking stuff, attacking property, attacking police is wrong. And I call out anybody during the summer BLM who did that on the left or whatever political persuasion were over. I believe over 13,000 people were actually arrested during the BLM summer
and released.
Very
cool. It was. Well, let's take. I want you to. This is what the media did in response to these BLM riots. Take a look at this clip. This is clip number 10.
Oh, you're fast, KJ.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
That ain't a riot, what we're seeing right now in Minneapolis. They are strictly principled anti-fascists, and they've taken a principled stand to stand against white supremacists and white nationalists wherever they may show up.
I argue to you tonight, all punches are not equal morally.
It says it right in the name, Antifa, anti-fascism, which is what they were there fighting. Listen, there's no organization is perfect. There was some violence.
Any reasonable person would say we shouldn't be destroying other people's property, but these are not reasonable times.
But thank goodness for the looters, man.
And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I don't care that much about statutes.
Shouldn't that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night throwing it into the harbor?
People will do what they do.
You're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Do not get it twisted and think that, this is something that has never happened before, and then this is so terrible, and where are we, and these savages and all of that. This is how this country was started.
People get mad, and people get sick of it. People are risking COVID to explain to this country that we're fed up.
Most of the major movements in American history have started at the grassroots level and at some point have turned into direct conflict with American government. So remember your history before you judge your present.
I mean, come on now. Those were mainstream media outlets taking up for the BLM riots. I mean, they caused massive amounts of damage, and people did die. People did die, right?
You know what Republicans did, including myself, during those BLM riots? We donated to those businesses that were vandalized.
Oh yeah.
They were small businesses, Black-owned businesses. A lot of times that were vandalized.
Just like the Black people who were killed on the ride, the security
Nothing
officers.
like that happened during January 6th.
And not only that, but those people who did all that damage, most of them got off. They
That's what I said.
They paid for them to get out of jail. They didn't do any time.
a lot of the ones who did property damage and were violent towards any cops, they were actually convicted.
No.
I just read this story. I just did this debate in my group. I just did this debate in my group.
They were released. They were released. And the political campaigns of the left really bailed them out. And not only that, they have the progressive prosecutors in place to go ahead and whitewash their little criminal activities. Come on, Omni.
You can look it up. Look it up right now. I implore you all, go on Google, search
it's not fair.
Convicted sentences from BLM
and the people who were
riots.
there, who were put in prison after January 6th are still in prison.
Thank you.
They tried to stop the peaceful certification of a presidential election, something that's never happened in the history of our country. It was an attack on our Constitution. I condemn the property destruction and the rioting and the stealing of BLM summer. Anyone who was violent or stole stuff or broke stuff or set police cars on fire, I do condemn.
We cannot disagree with what the government does. If we don't agree, so I thought that was part of the Constitution.
Yes,
if we have a problem.
Peaceful protesting. You can't storm.
Well, then BLM should still be locked up then.
Not a lot of BLM, like I said, the majority of BLM people who went to BLM protests were peaceful. There were some. See, you all admit this for January 6th.
No,
but you don't admit it.
Yes, I admit the people of January 6th.
We saw that.
There was,
but not the majority. The majority of BLM riots. The majority of them were rioters, trespassers, looters, criminal activity. No. That was the majority versus the minority of
organized. It was organized.
Oh yeah, so was January 6th. It was Stop the Steal rally. No, it was organized.
They were not trained. No, they have literally BLM actually sent out, and the same thing they're doing with the pro-Palestinian things. They are organizing people, showing them what to do, showing them how to get out of jail if they do stuff.
Of course,
all of this stuff.
And BLM lost its way a little bit and became
a little bit.
I mean, the organization itself, not the police reform movement.
A little bit.
But because the founders started to enrich themselves with the money.
As always, communists.
But any side, you can't go, if you don't agree with an election results, it's contested in court. You don't go break into the Capitol.
Most of them didn't break in.
You don't go. That's how our country works. And
you don't. If our country works that way, how come it's never happened before?
They said right there when we just watched.
Oh no!
They said, this is how our country started.
They're whitewashing.
Excuse me. So if we do not agree with this election results, why can't we go and protest?
You can protest. You can't break into the Capitol.
I agree with you.
You can't.
But you said we have to go to court.
Those media personalities who said that.
Oh yeah, they were wrong.
Wait a minute. If using their rationale, then January 6th should not be in jail.
The left media and the right media both does it when it comes to their side. If their side's in trouble.
I've never seen that. I've never seen
I watched Newsmax.
First of all,
they whitewashed January 6th.
The right media. It's not that much right-leaning media or mainstream. I showed CNN. We just showed
MSNBC.
MSNBC. These are mainstream media outlets just totally whitewashing that whole thing. I mean, nothing like that is
exactly. And
Tucker Carlson is a pundit. People were going to CNN, MSNBC for their mainstream media.
What do you consider Fox?
Right-wing
Fox News.
They condemned.
No, I'm saying Fox.
They condemned January 6th.
Right?
So
they're mainstream.
They're right of center. They're not necessarily conservative. They're right of center.
Did you see the text messages? You talk about Fox. You talk about Fox. Did you see, or they showed the text messages from many Fox pundits telling them about January 6th. This needs to stop. What are they doing? They were coming out against it.
Fox had the right narrative. It's more of the Newsmax and the OANs.
They're
like the MSNBC of the right.
Lopsided.
They're like the MSNBC of the right.
We gotta move on. We're supposed to be the reasonable ones. We're supposed to be the balanced one. We're supposed to condemn the violence. But it's okay for them not to condemn the violence.
No. Yeah, it's not even.
It was wrong for the liberal media not to condemn the violence.
Yep.
Leftist media.
All right, we got to move on. We do have to move on. I wanted to get into the trial slightly. We've seen like some crazy stuff come out this week as far as Cohen and his testimony. And I just want to touch on it briefly. Shelley, were you able to look at some of his testimony, and do you think he's believable?
Who, Michael Cohen?
Michael Cohen.
Okay, so let me see. Do you believe the lies he told the first time, or do you believe the lies he's probably telling right now? Or do you believe him because maybe he got a deal to come out with the prosecution before prosecuted him, perjury and lies, but now the prosecution is saying you're supposed to trust him. I don't know. Who are we supposed to trust? I don't believe it's Michael Cohen, number one. Number two, all of these witnesses, Cohen and Stormy, now we're supposed to just automatically say that their word is true and that Trump is just the total bad guy. These people have benefited, if you will, from Trump, his money, his prestige, or whatever. I mean, Stormy even got an orgasm, I think.
My God.
So, I mean, come on. Damn. This is ridiculous. Of course he's lying. Of course he's making all this up. Wherever there's more money to be made, Cohen will be right there. Wherever, Trump is, Stormy just wants to be there.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on this, Yana. Were you able to catch any of the testimony, and do you think he's believable?
Honestly, I'm kind of done with this trial. Like, it's been too long. I've been literally hearing about this for since Trump was president.
It's all CNN talks about right now.
It's been how many years it's been? I'm done.
Yeah.
What about you, Neil?
I astonishingly, even though I am definitely anti-Trump and believe he's a danger to this country, but I am not glued to the TV. Following the trial, this trial, pinpoint every day. It's all CNN talks about now. I wish they'd talk a little bit more about other things as well, because I was really more interested in the more severe charges that the trials that Trump has successfully delayed off and may never happen now. This trial, I mean, I totally believe Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels.
What?
But just listen for a second. Listen for a second. Trump slept with Stormy Daniels, and he paid her off, so it didn't come out. He didn't want Melania to know.
Okay, that's not a crime.
No law.
Listen. Just listen. Hey, there's something you're about to agree with here, actually.
Okay, come on.
Just listen. You ready to jump on me like wild?
Come on.
So, yes, he slept with Stormy. He had an affair. It's immoral. He paid her off to keep it hush-hush so it doesn't come out and hurt him during the election when he's trying to court conservative Christians and whatnot. Okay. But the problem with this case, it's actually, there's a big problem with it.
Come on, what is
it? It's never been charged as election interference before. And that's a reach. That's a legal reach to charge it as election interference.
The FEC didn't even want to charge him.
I mean, there's candidates all throughout history have kept bad stories about them out of the press before an election.
And it's not illegal.
Biden kind of did the same with Hunter's laptop.
Of course.
Tried to hush it, even though it was talked about. People knew about it. People knew about Trump having an affair with Stormy, but it wasn't totally in the media front and center.
Hillary did it with her laptop.
But it's not. To charge it as election interference has never been done before. And I just don't see, I think he's going to be found innocent of election interference. I just don't see, it's immorally wrong. It may be a misdemeanor, but it's not a felony. It's not an election interference felony.
All right. Well, hopefully.
I was waiting for the January 6th federal case, the confidential documents case, the Georgia case. This one was the weakest of all of them, and it's the only one that's happened.
All of them are weak to me. But again, thank you for that.
Jack Smith,
thank you for that.
I told you there was something in there. You were ready to fight about it.
We were. All right. So we'll continue to follow that. I do want to show you guys this quick clip of, this is just how crazy this Michael Cohen is. This is clip number 12.
One thing Donald Trump is, he's a compassionate man. He's a man of great intellect, great intuition, and great abilities.
Mr. Trump's memory is fantastic, and I've never come across a situation where Mr. Trump has said something that's not accurate. Mr. Trump truly cares about America. He loves this country. He's an amazing negotiator, maybe the best ever in the history of this world.
The words the media should be using to describe Mr. Trump are generous, compassionate, principled, empathetic, kind, humble, honest, and genuine.
This guy, so this was him, of course, Before he was told that he was not going to the White House with Trump, he was going to be a surrogate. He wasn't getting any type of White House official. He wasn't going to be AG, Attorney General, as he said he thought he was. That was him before. Now take a look at him now. This is clip 13.
Michael Cohen here with another Michael Cohen Reacts. Well, I've been receiving countless phone calls by people, all concerned because they're hearing on the media that Donald Trump is going to run again. And he's going to make this fucked up bullshit announcement sometime after the midterm elections. All right? I still to this day maintain that he is not doing it. It is still part of this great grift of Donald Trump. Now, for me personally, I hope to God that this fucking scumbag runs. I really do. And you ask me why. Well, first of all, because 24 hours after that, I'm going to put together my own team. I want to run as a Democrat. I want to put myself up on a stage against this fat fuck, this orange-crusted Mandarin Oompa Loompa. So let's see if I'm right. Stay tuned. I'll be back.
I mean, this guy is nuts.
Yeah. Right.
He is nuts.
That's what he should run. He should run to the nearest psychiatric ward. That's where he should be and commit himself.
But this is what the case is based off of. His testimony.
So the lie before the truth, before the lie, before the truth. I mean, what are you supposed to do with this, right? This is hysterical. All you can really do is laugh. He's crazy. He's a lunatic.
He's obsessed.
He's obsessed. He wants the fame and fortune that Trump has automatically on his own accord.
Sounds like
But
Trump.
he didn't earn it.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Trump ain't crazy.
Birds of a
Trump
feather.
is not crazy.
He didn't earn it.
He seems like he's jealous. He's like butthurt over something that he didn't get. He's
exactly.
You know what he's butthurt over? Going to jail for Trump. That's what I mean. That's something to be butthurt over. I'm
Why did
just
he go to
saying.
jail for Trump? He lied. He perjured himself multiple times.
For the Stormy Daniels thing, he went to jail for it.
Yeah, well, he should have.
But he purged it. But again, it was not a crime for Trump or whoever to pay Stormy off. So that was number one. So then he had perjured himself, and then he admitted to perjury, and then I guess the feds, kind of threatened him about his wife. But so he admitted to the perjury. He didn't even have to lie because there was no crime committed anyway.
Yeah, this guy, he reminds me, you know how you see the movies and you have like these mob bosses and there's always...
This is who Trump surrounds himself with.
It's always two. The main guy will have two, comrades or...
Lieutenants.
Lieutenants, right. One is the brains and one is just the dummy, always trying to get ahead.
He was Trump's fixer.
Yeah,
that's a legal muscle.
Yeah,
he was legal muscle.
He reminds me kind of like of who's in The Godfather, the son.
Sonny, was it Sonny?
Not Sonny, not kind of Sonny, but more so like the other guy.
I forget his name.
I forget his name too. If you guys are watching, you can see who I'm talking about. Yeah, let us know who I'm talking about. But it was the one who was in charge of the casinos, and he was a mess. He was a mess. This guy reminds me of him.
I mean, the fact that he is such a traitor, like to say such things about Trump at first and then turn completely around, and then they make Trump to be like this evil guy, this guy who has so much power and he is so totally evil. But you know what? People in America can say these things. Like Michael Cohen, he can completely turn around and be loyal one day and then be completely disloyal the other day. Because in America, we have freedom of speech. I mean, he has the right to say these things. In other countries, a person like him would have disappeared.
But he really should be upset with the prosecutors from his first case. They're the ones that entrapped him, right? They're the ones who threatened him, if you will. So he should be angry with them. Now they have convinced him that Trump is the bad guy. Trump was never against him, if you will. He committed no crime. He didn't even have to lie. There was no crime committed.
Yeah, we'll continue to follow that story, but just want to go show you guys how crazy this guy is. I mean, he's obsessed with Trump, as clearly as you can see. I don't even think it was anything... Frito from The Godfather, right? I don't even think he was any type of handler or fixer, really. I think he wanted to be more. Trump didn't give him more to do, and he was just obsessed, and then he became upset about it. So moving right along, I want to move on. Oh, we do have a super chatter. I do want to acknowledge Abraham. Thank you so much. He says, I'm always looking forward to your podcast. Best on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right. So we're moving right along. I wanted to touch quickly, before we talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, I want to touch on a local issue. Maryland had their primary today. So we are here in Maryland. We had our primary yesterday. It was Super Tuesday. And, Biden and Trump won their races, of course. Right.
Exactly.
So despite, though, there was some kind of funny news. So despite dropping out of the race on March 6th, Nikki Haley's name remained on the ballot. She won here in Maryland her largest vote share that she's won out of any state. So that was something to kind of pay attention to and see what's going on. We do have a closed primary here in Maryland, so it's not like it was in some of the other states where you had independents and maybe Democrats able to, somehow vote for her. We have a closed primary. Also here in Maryland, with 66% of votes counted, President Biden had only 86.3% of the vote, while 10.4% of Democrats voted uncommitted, and others voted for Marianne Williamson and Representative Dean Phillips. I want to get your thoughts on this, Shelley. What do you think about those results with Nikki Haley getting a large share?
Nikki Haley's irrelevant. Trump was going to win in Maryland because she's not even on the ballot. The percentage.
Well, what does it mean across, as we move forward is what I would say.
Well, as far as what?
But those two, you see here, people are still voting for Nikki Haley, even though she's not on the ballot. And then Biden is, he didn't get as much of the share of the percentage of the vote that you would think he would get here in liberal Maryland.
I disagree. Biden got like 80-something%. That's a significant majority. The other two candidates, I don't even know whose names they are, whatever. But for Nikki Haley on the Republican side, Nikki Haley got about a quarter,
20%.
About 25.
Double digits.
Double digits. Yeah, but ultimately we know it means nothing because she's not on the ballot, right? What it might represent, or it signifies that, of course, there are a significant number of Republicans in Maryland, a blue state, who just don't like Trump or won't vote for Trump. We already know that. We already know that. We already know in Maryland, Trump is not going to win in Maryland anyway. And again, I'm going to vote for him. I'm going to be one of however many that's going to vote for him. I still know he's not going to win in Maryland. What matters to me is that he wins for the country. That's number one. This election, like you said, is a primary election. What I was surprised about, I don't know if I should have been, but it was such a low turnout, right? Yeah. It was, compared to, I think, 2022?
Right.
It was about 1/4 or maybe 1/5, I think, of the number of people who voted back then, only 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was definitely a low turnout. It was like, I went to my polling, and it's a small polling center in Gaithersburg, but there was like three other people there voting. Was it the rainy day in some areas? I think a lot of the turnout had to do with that Biden and Trump got the top ticket locked up. There's not really a primary battle. And unfortunately, some people are not like politically active people like us. Like, we delve into it. We really delve into these issues. A lot of the average voters, they just want to pay attention to the presidential races. Right. That's the glitz and glam, the top ballot race. And so with those locked up, a lot of people didn't come out and be like, oh, I need to vote for the Maryland Senator primary or a House District primary or Board of Education. Even though, especially Board of Education, that's really important on the local levels.
Yes.
People start getting interested in local races. They affect your lives more than presidents do.
Yeah. I wanted to move on to another race, Larry Hogan. So our former governor, Republican Larry Hogan, won his nomination for his 2024 Senate primary election here in Maryland. It's a big seat now. We may be able to flip this Democrat-held seat here in Maryland with him running. Also, PG County or Prince George's County Executive Angela Brooks. Okay. She handily beat out well-funded incumbent Representative David Trone. He currently holds the seat. The owner of Total Wine and More, Mr. Trone poured tens of millions of his own cash, roughly $60 million, into the campaign. Funding advantage far exceeded also Brooks, and she was able to pull it through. She's seen as the more progressive of the two. I want to go back to you. I'm going to get you into this, Yana, but what do you think about that race?
So they're both like the senator primaries on both sides. So on the Republican side, Robin Ficker is actually a member of my group, All About DMV Politics on Facebook. Robin does a great job being a member of every single political group on Facebook. You'll see him posting pictures. He's a networking, like the Energizer Bunny. That's what he does on Facebook and going out to events to meet people. So, at first, when I heard Hogan's coming into it, I said, no way he's going to win the Republican nomination. MAGAs hate Hogan. They consider him a rhino Democrat, basically. And then I started seeing polling coming out, and he's like beating the other Republican candidates. And I'm like, wow, maybe Republicans got smart in Maryland and realized that MAGAs don't win state races in Maryland, and that to have a chance to have the first Republican senator from Maryland in over 44 years, a further right candidate would not win the general election, and a Hogan, who was relatively popular with Democrats as governor, may have a chance to win. So Robin
wasn't going to win anyway.
He used to get 5% in elections, and he got 30%. So Robin did better than he did in the past. So Robin, feel happy about yourself. You actually got a significant amount of the vote this time. But Robin was he's not a true MAGA even. No. He was just trying to court the MAGA vote to win that. But it was split. Lori Friend was in it. Merrick, they're in my group as well. And so the anti-Hogan vote was split, but still it wouldn't been enough. Hogan got over 60%.
Yeah. And he's looking very good to win the general. I mean, it's going to be
well,
the new polling came out. He's down by about 10%.
Compared to also Brooks. This is what... Well, Yana, you want to go first if I give my thoughts?
No, I was going to say I'm not surprised that Hogan won the primary because Maryland is very middle of the road. That's the sense that I'm getting, and I think Republicans here, they kind of want someone who can see both sides of the picture, and so I'm not surprised that he won.
But I want to move on to also Brooks and Hogan. We're in the general. Right. She is a black woman. Again, personally, I thought he would have a better chance against Trone. I think now she's here. I don't know if he's going to be able to pull this out as easily as he would have been against
I agree with you. And now, I've been saying this is the year, I'm calling this the year of the black woman for all the wrong reasons. I do believe that also Brooks and Hogan, it's going to be a tight race primarily because she's a black woman now, and black women, love it or hate it, they get a lot of attention by a lot of black folks, and then I'm not going to say always, but the one card that can be used will be the race card. Yeah. It's going to be, and so Hogan, as much as I am one of those, if you want to call it MAGA, I didn't just get smart. I've been smart to your point. But I had voted for Hogan when he was governor twice. I was angry with him during the scamdemic and thus after, right? But I also knew that politically for Maryland, he would be the best for Maryland. So I didn't just get smart. So take that.
Yeah. Well, actually, a MAGA was strategy. But I want to touch on the also Brooks Trone thing if I can, just real quick because I didn't mention that. Token leftist here, so. Talking about that she can motivate the black vote to come out and vote for her, which is, I believe, over 30% of the Maryland electorate. That's how she partly beat Trone. Mm-hmm. Trone won in Western Maryland, and he won on the Eastern Shore. In the more diverse population center in Central Maryland that controls state elections, she won. She beat him 70% to 20-something% in her home county of PG. In his home county, my county, Montgomery County, he needed to run it up to beat her, to have a chance to beat her. And she's ahead right now by 3% even in his home county in Montgomery. In Baltimore City, in Charles County, in PG County, where you have the highest black vote, she beat Trone handedly.
Yep.
And this is why I believe the Democratic establishment endorsed her over Crone.
Absolutely.
Governor Moore endorsed Al Alsobrooks. Jamie Raskin, who you all probably hate, but is popular with Democrats.
Brandon Scott is going to.
Right, endorsed her because they know that the black Democrat vote in Maryland is very important, and they want her to motivate it in the general election.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so sick of this. I am. You know, it's just people. I'm over voting based on your skin color. It's just, and I know that's what people are doing.
Right.
It was a pastor on my Facebook page pushing this woman, and so you know, it makes me sick. But I mean, it is what it is.
We need more black women in the Senate. That would be nice. I mean, you shouldn't vote for someone just for their skin color.
Why? Say that again.
It's important to have representation.
What if I said we need more?
How is that? So you just said that MAGA people, hold on. You just said that MAGA people were not smart. Now I'm sitting next to your lefty. I'm a black woman. So now you're saying that the only reason I would belong in the Senate is based on my skin color? How degrading is that, Avniel?
No, a qualified
That's
black
not what
woman.
you said. You said based because
No, I didn't mean it based on the skin color.
That's not what you said.
I'm against identity politics just for identity. I voted for Trone in the primary. Honestly, I didn't vote for Alsobrooks.
That's not the point.
I like Trone's been my representative for House District 6.
No, I gotta
He's my House representative.
No.
But Alsobrooks is qualified. It's not just she's not there.
That's not what you
she's also
said. You said we need
qualified.
more because
If she's qualified, that's wonderful.
Yes.
We need more qualified people in the Senate. Absolutely. But
Hogan's qualified too.
But to say something like that is very Marxist. To say we need more black
served his favorite word, Marxism.
No. It's not because I'm a conservative. It's because I grew up. Literally, there was Marxism everywhere. We were beating that Marxism, but believe me, we knew what it's like.
It's racist.
And we had
I don't think people
we had
should be elected
quotas
just for their
in the
He's
Soviet
talking about
Union.
representation.
We had quotas in the Soviet Union.
Alsobrooks is qualified.
Where we had to bring the peasants. We had to bring people from every republic. There has to be a representation because we need to have from the entire country. It's a to say something I can't believe that someone would say we need. It's like saying we need more Chinese. We don't have enough Chinese. Like really? How ridiculous does that sound?
Not only that, but here as a black woman, this woman is detrimental. I don't agree with anything she has to say. She's more to the left than Trone.
No, I thought Trone was more to the left.
No.
She's
a little bit harder on criminals, on criminal things.
That's it, but she's pushing the whole abortion thing.
Yeah,
that's all Democrats.
Trone is doing that too.
But he wasn't adding for the amendment.
I get what you're saying. She is qualified. She meets the standards to run or to
exec, PG
right. She does have those qualifications.
She's not as qualified as Hogan.
No, I'm saying that he's qualified too. I'm not saying.
Right.
I'm saying she does meet the standards, but I'm talking about your comment.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, take it back.
I retract it.
But
what I don't want to retract, and one of the race that we should pay attention to in the primary was talking about former governors or gubernatorial candidates. Former MAGA Republican gubernatorial candidate who beat Hogan's endorsement, Kelly Schultz, which is why at first I didn't think Hogan could win the primary because you said, well, Republicans are moderate in Maryland. Giannis said that.
Right.
Yet they nominated Super MAGA Dan Cox over Kelly Schultz. And he won 54% of the Republican primary to face Wes Moore, and they got crushed by Wes Moore. Right. So he ran in my House District 6, Maryland Congressional District 6. Cox was running against Neil Parrott, who is from Hagerstown in Washington County.
That area.
And he ran against Trone twice and lost to him, but last time only lost by 7%. So now you had Cox running against Neil Parrott, and Cox has all this name recognition because the whole state knew him for being the gubernatorial candidate in, 2022? 2022.
But he lost.
And he lost big.
He lost big twice.
26. Parrott got 49% of the vote, and Cox only got 26% of the vote.
Why is that so
funny? Bye-bye, Cox. Bye-bye. His political hopes in Maryland have crashed and burned since he was ran for governor.
Yeah.
He only got.
He did his maybe a little bit less.
It's crazy. A former gubernatorial candidate.
He was
only
a
got
candidate.
26%.
It's no big deal.
He lives in the district in Frederick County.
And so has Neil. Neil's lived out there for
with
a while
Hagerstown.
too. Yeah.
And Cox barely won. He's up in Frederick County right now, his home county.
Right, and we have somebody who's brought up a good point. She said Dan Cox was being pushed by the Democrats because they knew he was able to be beat.
I'm a Democrat, and I didn't want Dan Cox anywhere near the general election.
As a party.
They thought he was, as a super MAGA, he'd be easier to beat.
Right. But I have to move on.
Neil Parrott, he crushed him in Hagerstown.
That's
Just one last thing. 70% of the vote in his home district, and Dan Cox only got 20% in Washington County. In Cox's county of Frederick, it's nearly a tie.
That really riled you up, doesn't it?
I do not like Dan Cox. I do not like Dan Cox.
Well, I do want to touch on just quickly Baltimore City because we're all here in Baltimore City, and so it was a kind of an upset. Sheila Dixon, who was in polling, she was looking like she was going to pull out a win.
Yeah.
But Brandon Scott, who you guys probably have seen all over left media talking about the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and he's the DEI mayor. He actually had a shirt on saying that yesterday. He won. He won. Yeah. So I'm not a Democrat, but I did prefer Sheila Dixon.
Right. I prefer Sheila Dixon to, again, the former mayor. I prefer Sheila Dixon, so she wasn't even on my ballot. I'm not a Democrat either. However,
you did get the push from the bridge.
I do see, and let me say it this way. I do understand why Brandon won. Why? Because in as much as Baltimore still has a long way to go, the crime numbers, particularly homicide and non-fatal strangulation. Non-homicidal stabbings.
Non-fatal.
Right. They have been on a decline.
Yeah, they have.
For the last probably year or so, give or take.
Yeah.
So that is it has been a significant drop. So I think people are starting to feel, at least the murder rate has gone down. They're starting to feel it maybe locally. That doesn't mean that other crimes have not increased, because typically speaking, this is just a universal principle. Whatever you focus on gets the attention, and that's going to get whether you want it to increase or decrease. So that's what's been happening. Carjackings, auto thefts, things like that have increased, but Brandon is getting some positive notices for some of the things that he has been trying to do as far as bringing the murder rate down, and it has been working.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll continue to follow what's going on here in Baltimore City. Again, we have the general election here in Baltimore coming up in June, I believe. Is it June?
November.
Oh, November. It's November. Yeah. Okay. So no, it's all in November. That's right. Okay. So we will keep you guys updated as to what's going on. Moving along, we want to talk about this Vivek Ramaswamy and Anne Coulter interview. So, guys, I thought personally this was the best interview I have seen in a very long time. The discussion was so honest, so authentic. It was really good. So if you have not watched the full interview, please go and watch it and share your comments, because I thought it was very good. I want to open up with this clip. This is clip number 2 that has actually gotten the most buzz online. This went viral due to Anne Coulter's comments. And then we're going to discuss this dissect it. Take a look.
And articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. And that was a great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there. Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian. We'll get back to that. And it's directly related to what you were just talking about. You know, the thing about nationalism, you're totally right. It is like, to use the word nationalism, oh, it's Hitler, it's Hitler. And you know, Hitler had soup. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have soup. Mm-hmm. Hitler loved dogs. That doesn't mean you shouldn't love dogs. So I think we have to move past this. If Hitler did it, it must be bad. But I do notice when I was listening to your monologue, I don't think I do use the word nationalism. I would use a word you used in your monologue, which I liked quite a bit, and that's citizenship. There's citizenism. How about Americanism?
Yeah.
I'd also point out that the only people who are not allowed to be proud of their ethnic group do tend to be Anglo-Saxons. Oh boy, you can't be proud of being white. There is a core national identity that is the identity of the WASP. And that doesn't mean we can't take anyone else in, a Sri Lankan or a Japanese or an Indian. But the core around which the nation's values are formed is the WASP. We've never had a president who didn't have at least partial English ancestry. Never. We've only had one Catholic president. There was only one Catholic signatory to the Declaration of Independence. They were all not only Protestants, but pretty much Presbyterian. King George referred to the American Revolution as that Presbyterian War. So there is a lot in the freedom thing. Samuel Huntington of Harvard has written about this in a fantastic book I recommend to everyone, Who Are We? And he describes how, back in colonial times, interestingly enough, for example, Jews could vote, but Catholics couldn't because people thought they would be more loyal to Rome. Once they became more American Catholic and less Roman Catholic, then they were just, part of us and part of Americans. But you do notice, and he describes why so many countries that have not done very well are dominated by Catholicism.
All right, so a lot to unpack there. Before we dig into this, I do want to acknowledge our super chatters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for your support. Big Dog, hey, he says both Trump and Biden will continue to support the genocide. Might have to vote the couch this election, though Trump is the better option. Oh, wow. Big Dog, you got to vote. All right, you got to vote for Trump. Trust me, I'll vote Trump before Biden. America first. Okay. All right. So a lot to unpack here. So I want to preface this. The whole conversation they had was basically about pro-nationalist visions for the future. And is there some element of ethnic heritage to be an American? Mm-hmm. So I want to start with you, Shelley, specifically what she said about the WASP being that is the ideal for America. What are your thoughts on what she said there?
Well, of course, if you've seen that interview, you know Vivek pushed back on her on that part, right? Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two, if you know Anne Coulter, if you've read her books, know her, she's very provocative. She does have this sarcasm type humor to her theories or whatever she's talking about. She's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I like her. But one thing I'd say about Anne is that she's honest. She's honest about what she believes and what she thinks, right? And she loves a good debate. That's why she was able to do that with Vivek. But I think she's wrong on that, because even when he pushed back, of course I agree with Vivek, is that it's not about your skin color, which is basically what she was really arguing for, that only white people should be certainly president, and that
white Protestants, right?
Anglo-Saxons. I get the value system we have is Judeo-Christian. Anybody can be a Christian. Anybody can be a Jew. You can convert to a Jew. You can be born as a Jew. Yes. So I think she was wrong on that. And what she basically, I don't want to minimize it, but I don't want to put words in her mouth. But what I got from that is that she was basically advocating a racist perspective for American to be a president, but to be an American.
Yeah. And before I get you in on this, Shiana, I want to push back on that a little bit. I didn't have an issue that much with what she said, and let me tell you why. Because we know WASP is white, Anglo-Saxon Protestant. So I had an issue because she said that. Mm-hmm. But when she went on to support what she was talking about, she wasn't really talking about skin color as much as the idea of Protestantism. Protestantism. She was saying that she thought the president should be Protestant because if they're coming from some other country, some other religion, and she talked about this throughout the interview, most of these other religions do not value freedom as much as the Calvinists.
I get that.
And
PJ.
she also made a distinction. She came hard against Catholicism, which I'm not mad at her about.
You agree with her on a religious basis.
I do, and I thought that was the bulk of her
but what
support.
she's advocating is really against the First Amendment. Ultimately, it goes against the First Amendment. It really does.
Yeah.
It goes against the First Amendment. So,
well, what are your thoughts here, Yana?
I mean, I can see a point that it had to do with also the ideological aspect of it, that she was trying to say that, she was comparing Catholicism with Protestantism, and Protestantism does have to do with more of a kind of like, they're the ones who came up with the freedom of speech and choosing how to worship. So they were definitely pioneers in the freedom movement in the world. So I can see where she's coming from in that respect. When it comes to just race, ethnicity, just like if the person on the left would say something like, we need more Black people in the Senate, it's totally ridiculous. And someone on the right who would say that I wouldn't vote for you because you're Indian.
And he's an American.
Right. And that's why we have we have a problem in this country.
Right.
It's because there's so much racism that is happening. And unfortunately, on the right, this lady doesn't give us a good look by saying something like that.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on this.
Wait a minute. Are we two Republicans or three Republicans who are really on our? We chastise outside too. Change your mind.
I applaud both of you ladies. Good job. You're here for calling out Coulter on this, because, whew, where do I start on this? I'm not going to vote for you, she says, because you're Indian. So she went after ethnicity, maybe skin color. Then she went after freedom of religion, saying, I don't think we should have Catholic presidents, basically. JFK is turning in his grave. My goodness. It's a very singular view of what it means to be an American patriot, where I think there's people of all skin colors, ethnicities, and religions who are American patriots. I would argue that your skin color, your religion doesn't matter. It's about having a shared value of what it means to be American. And that has been under attack lately. What she's saying is contributing to the problem, is that we're all going into our tribal groups, and we think the other groups are enemies, whether it be politics, skin color, ethnicity, religion. No, we need to have American patriotism on the rise, and we need to realize we're all Americans, and the shared value system of our Bill of Rights is what should unite us as Americans. Be proud of our country. We have a lot of problems. We have a lot of things that we can improve, but man, the founders created a great blueprint for a great country of freedom. And anyone who believes in these values and upholds the Constitution should be allowed to be president. And it's too much identity politics on both sides. And remember the old adage, as Americans, united we stand, divided we fall. So shame on Anne Coulter for trying to divide us more there.
Now, before you go, Yana, I do want to get this next clip in, because it goes into a little bit more why she is thinking this way. And again, I'm not saying I agree with her. I was saying I sort of understood what she was saying. This is clip number 1. Take a look.
And yes, you probably have it. I know my friend Miguel Estrada had it. I know a lot of first-generation immigrants are already somehow deeply imbued with the American creed, with the American ideal, but it's a backstop. The longer you've been here, the more it enters you by osmosis. And I think that's why the framers wanted the president to be natural born.
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, I find you fascinating. I think we view each other through a very interesting prism. I may take some liberty here, but I think you see in me or the other friend you've referred to, what a good exception to the rule. And what about somebody to actually help do a good job for this country? And let me help you, even though, while I couldn't have voted you for president, let me root for your success in a good-hearted kind of way. And the equivalent of that emotion or reaction or view that I have of you is, gee, how terrible it is that we have become a country where our national identity is completely gone. We have immigration policies that have contributed to it. We have domestic self-hating policies like the Great Society of Lyndon Johnson that have contributed to it, that has led otherwise thoughtful, patriotic, country-loving, history-understanding Americans to have missed the mark ever so slightly on what actual American identity is as part of an understandable reaction to an assault on this country. And I think that the counterpart to your, I'd say, favorable but couched reaction to someone like me being the U.S. president or running for U.S. president is my reaction to, I think, what you represent is a view of many Americans who rightly, if we were having this conversation against the backdrop of sensible immigration policies, whose sole goal was to advance the national interest of the citizens who were already here, the backdrop of a shared language that we could all share in common, English, as the single national language of the United States, which I think is a no-brainer, against the backdrop of actual policies that embody those basic Protestant values, including the value of hard work, embracing and lionizing success, and maybe not worshiping it, but lionizing it rather than vilifying it. Against that backdrop, I suspect deeply that your own views of what constitutes the most American somebody could be, even in the office of U.S. president, might be different than what they are today.
I think
it makes me sad.
could be.
All right. So I thought that quote or that part that he mentioned there was like my favorite part of the whole interview. And I say that because what he's basically saying is the climate that we are in now.
Exactly.
It's so polarizing, and so much is based on race. Honestly, pushed by the left. These identity politics, everything is about race. It has caused a lot of white Americans to react now. It's a bad reaction.
So we were talking earlier, and I think I like this interview, and I like Anne Coulter. Like I said, I like her honesty, whatever. But one of the things I think a little bit more than race, what this discussion is taking place is happening on the right. We collectively on the right are starting to trying to figure out what our identity really is, and we're having these discussions, which is why I love this interview as well. Even if you don't agree with Anne, I love the interview. So the right is trying to figure out where we belong. And one of the reasons, the main reason I don't agree with Anne, because I think what she's advocating, if you will, is against the First Amendment. It's against the Bill of Rights. Interestingly enough, all of the signers of the Bill of Rights, even though they were Presbyterian or Protestant, they still wrote the First Amendment. They didn't want religion to be a test of whether or not you could be an American. That was so they, as religious as they were or were not, they still wrote the brilliant document in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that religion was not a qualification for you to be in America. It's certainly not a president if you were born here.
They did not think about other religions besides Christianity.
They did not make it mandatory. You do not. There is not a religious test to be an American.
Correct.
Shelley, I need to finish.
Okay, go ahead.
So at the time, they did not envision that there would be Hindu, Muslim, Jewish people.
It doesn't matter.
Running
they were religious themselves. They came from religious.
I'm just saying. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
Okay.
But I just have to say, the people who were saying we need to have freedom of religion, they were specifically speaking about Christianity because there was so much strife between Protestantism, Catholicism, and Anglicanism. So they were really talking about that, and they did believe that the people who were going to be running the country are going to be
natural born,
and they would follow Christian values.
It's true. It's true. And let me just finish. Let me jump in. It is true.
It was not.
The Constitution.
They might have
was
believed that
primarily
KJ,
made
a Judeo-Christian
from Deuteronomy.
I get that,
It was
but there was not.
60% of
But
it.
they still, as religious. As the point I'm
religion.
making is that as religious as they were, I'm not. They
Freedom of
didn't say
religion.
you. They didn't say that you could be. They as religious as they were, they did not encode it, enshrine into our Constitution that you should be or have to be a Christian or even Jewish to be an American. American. That's the point I'm making. I'm not saying that they were
But let me
anti-religious.
ask you this,
That's
though.
not what I'm saying.
If you come from a point of where you're saying you don't even Hindu, Muslim, Buddhism is not even in your mind.
It actually was, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why I'm like.
I'm a bit of a history buff, and my favorite historical period is the Revolutionary War and founding of this country, which became a Revolutionary War reenactor when I was 12. But they said I couldn't hold a musket, so I said, forget it. That's not cool. That's not cool. Water boy, come on, I'm not gonna be your water boy. So actually, so there was a conflict with some Muslim traders and shippers off the coast of North Africa during John Adams' presidency. John Adams, who was on the Declaration of Independence Writing Committee and who was a signer of the Constitution as well. And so they called them the Muslim men. They were like, this was involved in the roll up to what caused the War of 1812, and basically some North African Muslims were kidnapping some of our sailors and stuff in that part of the world. And so there was a treaty at Tripoli with them, and John Adams, he helped write the treaty. His Secretary of State helped write it. John Adams approved of it and signed it. And in that treaty, it said, America is not a Christian nation, and we have no problem with the Muslim man. And that treaty was ratified and signed
meaning Christian from, it's not religious, meaning that there doesn't have to be a religion enshrined. Right, that's what I mean. You're right. That's what I mean.
United Kingdom, England has a shrine religion of
Exactly, exactly.
Maryland, where we all are, was a Catholic colony.
Queen of Mary.
Because Catholics didn't have freedom of religion in England, so they came to Maryland.
Right.
And so they did recognize. They didn't know about Muslim. There was Jews in the country at this point, and
They also knew about religious persecution. They also were aware that even in religion, and I'm not saying that they were anti-religion. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they also were aware that even in religion, people can abuse power, and so that was not to be American, the American way.
The American way was be whatever religion you want.
I'm just saying, I'm not absolutely. I think that everyone what she said is ridiculous, and so we should be able to vote for a person regardless of what they look like or their religion. However, what I'm worried about in this country is that we are forgetting our basic values.
Well, I would agree.
And so
American values. I agree with that. American values, not religious values, but American values.
I feel like they're very intertwined. So you cannot separate something that our founding fathers truly believed in and the morals that we have. We can't separate them from life. Like we can't,
because it's based off of
Abrahamic
biblical.
So right now
morals.
in Senate, in our government, we have people who absolutely have no belief in a higher power. They do not agree with Judeo-Christian values of valuing life and life at conception. They don't agree with that. So we have people who literally don't believe in God. And so how do you reconcile with that? Like that's what I have.
And that's what I think, and that's something Anne was saying. What does it mean to be an American? That was the question. And so again, this is something that in this climate where you have a large portion of the country on the left who are anti-American.
Right.
They hate American. And a lot of it is coming from Black people.
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not just talking about what I see on the news. We know people that just, they think being an American is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And so when you have this going on within the country, it does create a climate or a response. Well, if you don't want to, if you hate America, you hate what it is to be an American, then I don't want you. It creates a kind of anti-immigrant.
Anti-immigrant, we all get into our own little tribal corners.
Right.
So I'm saying that to say, even above the racial or skin color issue, a part of it is that as Americans, even on the right, we are all trying to figure out who we are. When she named that book, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And I think we need to have this discussion, because I would rather have this discussion, as hard as it is or as upsetting as it may be to hear people like Anne Coulter say things like that. I would rather have the discussion than to have a civil war. Because I would rather to have the discussion, all the hard things, the hard parts, have the discussion, because in that discussion, we just have to dig deeper and deeper, and we hopefully will come out with basically what we have originally is the Constitution.
Well, we do have to move on. That was an interesting conversation with Vivek and Anne Coulter. I do suggest you guys go watch it, because Vivek really put her in her place. I mean, and again, but he did it in a way where it was within the discussion. It was very intelligent. And I just loved it. I
never thought I'd agree with Vivek on anything.
Wow. I mean,
but you would agree with us because we were on the right.
But look at me, people. We need to start talking. Every side. I'm a leftist, a Democrat. I'm not a far leftist, but I come on the show. And look, I like these ladies actually. Even though some of their views may be misguided, we talk about it and we respect each other.
Yeah, we definitely
need to start respecting each other, not viewing any other American as an enemy.
Yes.
That's going to destroy this country.
Tell your side that.
I've told far leftists this. I've told far rightists this. You know, I'm sick and tired of people seeing each other as non-American because of political views.
Exactly.
That's been the strength of America. We've always disagreed on things.
Exactly.
But we talk about it and we don't hate each other for it.
Yeah,
because we have shared common American values, the Constitution.
Yep. Right. That's right. All right. I do want to acknowledge our super chatters here. Manuel Gonzalez, he says, if you vote the couch, your ballot is harvested and cast for you. Don't be dumb. Right? Yeah. Big Dog. Oh, he says, where is Crystal? Hey,
she changed into me.
We
had an extreme makeover.
Transhumanism, right? No.
Abraham again.
Yes, no. Crystal, she started her own channel, guys. So she has her own channel now. We've shouted it out previously, so you can definitely check her out there. She'll be she may pop in from time to time again, but she's really mainly on her own channel. Right. So Abraham says Protestantism is not immune to socialism. Scandinavia, UK, etc. All right, yeah.
Because we need shared values, which is those Judeo-Christian values, not
it's a constitution.
Not Marxist values.
It's a constitution, not necessarily Judeo-Christian. It's the Constitution.
Big Dog says facts. KJ, identity politics is pure deflection. Yeah, you're right. All right, so we are running out of time here, guys. I want to talk about this one last clip with Bill Maher and Bill Burr. Take a look at this. They clash over college protests. This is clip 11.
You don't realize that college campuses erupted with the kids demonstrating for Hamas? They are in with the terrorists.
They were for the Palestinians.
Well, it's sort of the same cause. Why, are you?
I'm on the side of the kids.
Yeah, that's easy to say. You know, no one wants to see kids dead. This is a war.
That was very brave of you to say that.
This is a war. No, I'm the one who's actually brave on this.
Pat yourself on the back.
It's easy to say I'm for the kids. Who's not for the kids?
Well,
it comes down to real hard-nosed decisions. Like a country.
Stop talking like you're a general.
A country got attacked. Israel got attacked.
I'm not saying that they didn't have a right to go back. I'm just sitting there going like, how do I look at
what? We're the only country in the world that they get attacked, and then as soon as they counterattack, it's like, well, we got to stop this shit now. don't attack them. There's a very simple solution to all this problem in the Middle East. Stop attacking Israel.
Hey, you
Stop
just solved
attacking
it.
Israel.
You just
I did.
solved it.
I actually
there you
did.
Go.
All right. So again, we've seen these college protests. A lot of these kids are graduating this year, and they're putting out anti-Israel protests or commencement speeches. All kinds of stuff is still going on. Shelley, what are your thoughts on what you just said?
I'm going to say what I started off by saying. I'm sick of these people calling these children kids. I mean, they're children, students, young adults. They're not kids. I mean, stop framing it that way. They're not kids. Kids don't go out there advocating for other people to be murdered and slaughtered just because they may be Israeli or whatever. They don't do that. They certainly don't line up on the side of those who have slaughtered innocent people. So get rid of that kids thing. They are young adults. They are foolish. I think they're immature. I think they're ignorant. I think they are ingrates. They are the ingrates of America. I detest them. Yeah.
Ingrates.
Yeah, I think they're ingrates.
Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that exchange?
Yeah, the whole thing that kids in the college campuses, they're young adults and they're not kids. And they are entitled. They are spoiled. They don't know anything about the world. They don't appreciate this country. They don't appreciate what they have. A lot of them have come to this country and received a lot of the good things that this country offers. A bunch of them even get scholarships to go to these universities. These children of immigrants are receiving that. And they're learning crap. This crap is not going to, this stuff like some cultural relativism stuff, they're learning social justice, which they want to use later in some kind of nonprofits. And it's such bullshit. I know these people because I went to college with people like that. And I was, more on the left. I was not very active, but I know these types of people. They have nothing better to do. And they don't know what the heck is going on in the Middle East.
They don't.
And with war, shit happens, okay? And if you want to win, you should be tough. And that's the only way to win. So I'm originally from Russia. Do not bother Russia if you do not want to lose. And also, do not bother Israel if you don't want to lose.
That's right. You see the threat.
What are your
you heard
thoughts
the threat.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that exchange with Bill Maher and Bill Burr?
We could, I was on another show with you all discussing right when after it happened, the October 7th attacks, discussing the whole issue of Israel and Gaza. We could have a whole show on this. Right. So I'm gonna keep my points, and we've been talking a lot about everything else. So I'm gonna keep my points on this directly to these college protests, rather than discussing the whole Israel-Gaza thing and civilian casualties and whatnot. We can debate that for a couple hours. But basically, they aren't kids, right? They're young adults. They're, when I was that age, I wasn't even though I'm a very knowledgeable person, history buff, all this, political junkie, whatnot, I wasn't as wise as I was that age as I am now.
I was.
There's a lot of people on both sides. Well, good for you, man. You should be like a millionaire by now, being that wise as in your early 20s. But there's a lot of people on both sides of the issue that are very unnuanced. It's a very complex issue, and those. Bill Maher has a point. Look at you all agreeing with Bill Maher, by the way.
Yeah. I love it.
He goes, because like I said before, people have a problem or criticizing their own side, and Bill Maher, he's become more of a centrist as he's aged.
No, he has always been a liberal. He's been a
classical
left,
liberal. Center left.
He's
more
a
classical.
classical
He's
liberal.
not far leftist.
Right.
No.
And he calls out the far left a lot these days. So I applaud him for that, because very few people call out their own perceived side, even though the left and the right are very big political tents, so let's just, these college students do not represent the majority of the left. A lot of people on the left think like Bill Maher does, and they should not be screaming, supporting Hamas from the river to the sea, which is offensive to Jewish people. A lot of these protesters, a lot of them aren't even college students. They were arresting 45-year-olds on on the campus. They want a lot of them don't want Israel to exist and want a Palestinian state, and that's not right either. And they shouldn't be saying they should criticize Hamas. They should realize that Hamas are extremists and they have a big role in this as well, and that their attack. They didn't just attack IDF military; they attacked civilians, and that's wrong. So no one should be seemingly pro-Hamas. That's wrong. Saying that there's a difference between saying, well, we should protect Palestinian civilians from being killed more, and then there's a difference between that and saying, Hamas did nothing wrong. Right. Yeah, from the river to the sea. No, there's a difference in those two camps, and we should condemn anyone who's seemingly pro-Hamas or saying that there should be no Israel.
So let me ask you guys this. This is the last question of the night. Is all of this, do you believe all of this is a result of DEI? DEI in education, DEI in the workplace, telling us that whites are the oppressors and blacks are the oppressed, and we need to divide up in our separate quarters, and we need, areas where no whites can come because it's all, our black space. Is this a result of that?
I know I just talked but I think it's an oversimplification of history. As I said, I'm a history buff. To say all whites are oppressors and European whites basically are colonialism, it's history is complex and it's more complex like that. And I think the far left and the far right does this too, is a simplification of complex issues.
Yeah.
And then they, and that's led to these protests as well, and these like that some of them are verging in anti-Semitism. They shouldn't be like harassing Jewish students. And part of that is because of this mentality on the far left that of white colonialism, and that there's only that it's all bad, and that so Israel must be white colonialist, and that makes Israel as a country bad.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And it's part of the tribalism I was going back to.
I don't think it's a reason. I think this is a symptom of all of those things you just made. I mean, you just made a mention of. I think it's a symptom of the DEI, the affirmative actions, whatever else. Other isms you said. The problem is that we have generations of Americans in particular who don't know what it is to be American. Yes. They don't know. So they don't know our Constitution. I don't have a problem with anybody protesting because that's the First Amendment right. I have a problem with them advocating for the death of people. I have a problem with them being looters and trespassers. Right, like J6s, and stopping people from exercising their freedom on the campus that they pay tuition for. Those are the things that I don't have a problem with anybody in America saying that they hate one group or another, because I think that's a First Amendment right. Do I agree with it? No, but they have a right to say it. Yeah. So those are the things that they don't. These people, these ingrates, what I call them, these nitwits, right? What I call them. They don't know American history. They don't know what it is to be in America, and they don't know how good they have it, because what they're doing here, they couldn't do anywhere else, basically around the world.
But isn't that a separate issue from DEI, though?
Well, no, I think it's part of
because DEI was made for black people to advance in certain qualified black people to advance in certain fields.
Well, that's what I want, because I want to get you in those. The
far right always thinks, DEI, that black person who got that job must not be qualified. That's BS.
It's not only that, but it's an idea. It's actually become kind of like a almost like a religion. It's become the way people think about things, where not only are they talking about different experiences, but they're in the workplace. They give you a history lesson of how white people are the oppressor and black people are the victims, and it's systemic racism. I actually seen this at my old job.
Absolutely. And they had mandatory classes. For class
you're talking beyond the hiring. You're talking about
it's in education now.
It's part of the professional development every year. You have so many classes or courses, whatever. You got to see.
Right. Biden's June 2021 executive order, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Accessibility in the Federal Workforce, ordered the bureaucracy to allow for the creation of employee resource groups, or ERGs. The groups described by the government as spaces where employees of similar identities can talk freely amongst themselves and come together based on shared identities. So again, some groups are available by invitation only. If you do not share that identity, show your allyship by respecting those private gatherings and giving space for people to gather and talk freely amongst themselves. So they don't want anyone of other identities within these workforces. And this kind of stuff goes on and on. It becomes sort of this idea, this whole way of thinking about the way racial relations are supposed to be. What are your thoughts on this, Yana?
Well, yeah, I've talked about it many times. I've experienced it at a workplace where I was shocked beyond, like, I could not believe that this was happening. I was not political. I was not even considering myself to be on the right or the left. In fact, I was more like liberal at the time. And I was told to join the white group and to leave the black women who were in the workplace separate.
Right.
Like, they literally said, we're gonna put black people in one room and white people in another room. I looked at them and I was like, that is segregation. That is what I've learned since before I came to this country. I learned that this country has fought against this kind of practice. So what are you doing? Are you out of your mind?
I'm confused.
Does this literally happen?
I thought what you just read said people of different ethnicities, races coming together.
No, you said a key
word.
word. You said a key word in there, 2 words. You said the government. The government has given money to companies and vice versa to help organize, and making it some kind of regulation or policy. So if you get this money, then you have to do this. When you accept these government criteria and standards, these are the standards that come along with it. So back again, we have the government-sanctioned segregation.
But fostering cultural awareness and being aware of each other's cultures and stuff, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Bringing back segregation, no.
But it's happening. It's happening in a lot of
because they take money.
Maybe
from the government.
implementation of this thing's not going is not right.
Children too. They're doing it to little children where they're separating black kids from the white kids, and I don't know where they. Like, how do you even decide?
Every school that does
what
that,
if
young,
you
has
have
gotten
other ethnicities? And so that is Marxism again, because Marxists, they like to bring back like this cultural identity that you have to, be aware of. And they did this in the Soviet Union. They created nations that didn't exist there before. So this is what is destroying this country. Instead of being the melting pot that we were supposed to be, now they're breaking everybody up into these culture groups, and then we'll never agree on anything.
We talk about Marxism and communism a lot. We mention it here, but
sure you did.
No, one of the things that Marxism and communism could not happen on a large scale without the government being involved. Because the government is going to mandate the policies, they're going to implement the policies to put it across, and here it's going to come with some attachment, some money.
Well, that's why this is always in public schools, government-funded schools.
And
like
they
you
give money to
mentioned,
corporations.
right, if they're giving money, you have to adhere to these guidelines of DEI and things like that.
It goes back to the point that we just need to start seeing each other as Americans and have that shared identity. We should learn. Learning about slavery and the Civil War and the bad parts of this country
We get that all the time.
The sins of this country is important. I believe overall they're not teaching history well in schools, and it's a problem. You need to learn about the faults of this country, but you need to learn about the great ideals of this country as well. George Washington. He was a slave owner. He owned people. That's a terrible thing.
He also
freed
he freed all of his slaves.
He also struggled with it.
Yeah.
And he struggled with it.
that.
Thomas Jefferson
did too.
An interesting fact, Thomas Jefferson, in the first iteration of the Declaration of Independence, of the draft he wrote, he heavily condemned the institution of slavery. Yeah. Benjamin Franklin, who was on the committee, the Declaration of Independence Writing Committee, Benjamin Franklin, an abolitionist, told him, nah, take it out of there. Take it out of there, bro. Thomas Jefferson, we can't have you condemning slavery in the Declaration of Independence because the Southern colonies wouldn't have ratified it and the country would have fallen apart before it began and there would be no USA today. So what they did, Benjamin Franklin's like, we need to kick this can down the road.
Right.
And that became the Civil War nearly 100 years later. But Thomas Jefferson, these were complex people. And just like the U.S. is a complex history. There was bad, but there was good too.
Just
and
like
both need
the
to be
left
recognized.
likes to say we need to change the language, I have to say we need to change the language. I wouldn't say the sins, the fault, the struggle.
That's what I said. They struggle with that.
Of this country. So we need to, they're changing language all the time. They talk about their stuff in the way they want. We need to speak.
Sins was used though, Yana.
Why Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln
they still struggle
said the
with,
Civil War is because of the sins of slavery.
It is.
I mean, it was used in historical context too.
Okay, but I mean, he has a say. I can have a say too.
Yeah,
of course.
So I think that there's too much of this beating up the America and its history. Okay, we had struggles. Every country had awful things in their past. It doesn't mean that we need to hate the people who were involved and hate the founding.
It needs to be a balance.
Right.
It needs to be a balance.
Right.
So we need to be more mindful of the way we speak. Just like we speak about our families, we should be mindful of how we speak of our country.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I agree that any if you're the far left, far right, you shouldn't hate America. This is a country. It's given to a lot. It's brought the blueprint that our founders gave. It took a while to realize, and we're still trying to realize the ultimate dream. But we have much more freedom than many other places in the world.
Everywhere.
Which is why Anne Coulter, who was seeming kind of anti-immigrant in her talk to, I won't vote for you because you're Indian. Immigrants, like you said earlier, I believe, KJ, or Anne Coulter may have touched on it, Vivek may have touched on it, that when immigrants come to this country, they appreciate, like Yana, right? Because came from someplace that didn't have as many rights in Eastern Europe, right? And they really appreciate the rights that we have in this country and the freedoms.
Do they though?
Many immigrants.
Well,
do.
she also said that we may be at a time where we need to stop.
I think
we have to be careful about immigration.
Talking about how many generations.
We need legal immigration. We need correct legal immigration.
Right. Yeah, because she was saying that now we're seeing a lot of where the immigrants coming here are not assimilating.
That's what she was
talking about. They're not loving America like they used to do.
But
they're staying within
anti-Americanism's coming from the far left is people who have been here for generations.
That's what Anne's point was.
It's a lot.
Generations.
That's what Vivek said.
Right.
But Anne said that wasn't the case.
It's not like
she's saying that it was not, because she's saying that even with she said that a lot of the anti-Americanism is actually coming from American blacks. The anti-Americanism is coming from American blacks, but they are
also
being
white people too.
But this is all manufactured by communists and Marxists, are pulling the strings. And so, and this is what I was trying to really made me think about this whole thing is, if that's the case, then you understand why there is a fraction of white Americans who are reacting to this in a way that is very aggressive.
Oh yeah, I would say.
And Marxists will use anyone for their purposes. So yes, they will use the black community. They will definitely use the immigrants. And I can speak for the immigrants because coming to this country, most of the people that I interacted with were immigrants. And you have to be really careful with current immigrants.
That's what
because they're coming here and they're very much attached to the country that they are from. A lot of them not learning English. Many of them are only concerned about what is going on back in their country. Another thing that the governments are doing, and I can definitely speak to that because I deal with, going to my former country and I know what those countries are doing. They are giving those people passports to keep.
Oh, yeah.
And so all of these immigrants, even if they have an American citizenship, they have another citizenship.
And Anne was talking about that.
A lot of
and that is for America, that is a concern.
Yeah,
Americans
dual
should
loyalty.
be concerned about that.
You shouldn't have dual loyalty.
I hear you, but a lot of the Latino immigrants are actually conservatives. And you
That's
saw
true,
look at all the Cuban immigrants from Cuba who left communism. They left because they hate communism. So now the Republicans.
Cubans.
That's
but
Cuban.
Other Latino
People
Americans.
leaving Venezuela are leaving because they hate communism.
But a lot of them come here and they want to make the laws or make America like what they just left.
Get this. This makes it sound crazy. I saw an interview on CNN. On CNN with an illegal immigrant whose kids were born here, so they're Americans. They asked him if he could vote. If he could vote, who would he vote for? He said Trump. It was shocking. And the guy's like, well, Trump wants to deport you all. He said, well, I think. And I'm not endorsing this, by the way. That's not what I think.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
But I think the guy said, I think Trump will be better for the economy, and I want good economy for my kids.
Well, I know I know.
We can have a debate on that.
Exactly.
I think the economy, stock market just hit record highs today under Biden.
Well, I know a Hispanic immigrant.
This black woman knows that Trump was better for the economy.
Right. I know a Hispanic immigrant family that is living on the border with Mexico in El Paso. And they're conservative because they see the influx of illegal immigrants. They see the crime.
Yeah, a lot of Latinos are against illegal immigration.
Absolutely. There are many immigrants who have sense. But unfortunately, many of them also come here and they want the government assistance, the health care.
Honestly, I think it's American black.
And so they're
are the issue. They're the ones anti-American.
I mean, I think that's a part of it, but I mean, I think there's different, I don't know, factors.
Because like you're saying, a lot of Latinos.
Not the whole group, but you could say far left.
A lot of Latinos that I do know, as you mentioned, are conservative.
Yeah, they're coming here, religious people, conservative. Yeah.
But they do want the welfare.
Now, China, I heard it, I don't know if China's trying to sneak some people in there too, but the majority of immigrants now are Latino, and and the Democratic Party's learning, Latinos are not all liberals.
Well, they're also more religious.
Yeah. They're right. They're coming with the Catholic views and other views.
We have a convert here tonight.
Yeah.
You're leftist.
No,
I am. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a liberal. I'm a leftist.
He thinks he.
All right.
But I'm sensible leftist.
How is that? How are you not a liberal?
He said he's a leftist.
We could have this debate.
Let's not do it right now.
Political terms are very complicated and try to put us in boxes. Just remember.
He's much more of a liberal than he is a leftist.
All right.
Liberal has to do with liberty. I don't see how you can say. Then you.
Well, we
talk about it.
we had to talk about it. We'll talk about it after the show.
For that, Yana. We can have a whole show on political.
Yeah,
wait, you're a communist.
No, I'm not a communist.
Because I've heard this. Oh my gosh. No.
We'll do this for the after show. Hold that thought, Yana.
Because communists are not liberal.
Hold that thought.
No, the left has a big tent. The political labels are confusing.
All right, well, we do have to move on. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. We certainly appreciate it. Again, we're doing something different tonight. We invited Avniel on. He is a leftist. But yes, to kind of go through the topics tonight and debate some things. We hope you guys enjoyed it. It was really fun for us. Final thoughts before we go. I know we have to leave. I'll start with you, Yana.
Well, I have to say, be more active. Get involved in your communities. That is what the left does, and we have to do that. Don't be afraid to speak up. If you see something not right in your kid's school, speak up against that. If you see anything wrong going on in your community, speak up against that. And find people who are like-minded. Don't just sit at home and complain and argue with people on the internet. That is not productive. The way how I found people that I know here is through Meetup. It was literally. So find people who you can connect with and be active, become an activist.
All right, Avniel, where can people find you and what are your final thoughts?
I'm going to hold the American flag with my girl here. I saw she picked it up. And I think, my final thoughts are that, to go back to the point, look at this. We have a further right conservative here, and we have a leftist here, both holding the American flag. Now, we agree on some things, we disagree on a lot, but we're still Americans. We are Americans. We are united by all the freedoms that we have. This country's not perfect. I'm sure there's many things on the right and on the left that they want to change about this country. But you have to love and respect our country, America. It has given us all the opportunity to advance financially, freedom. It is not perfect. We can debate vigorously. We can shout at each other sometimes. But we're all Americans, and we cannot end up hating each other. Because in the end, the only people who win when we hate each other are our adversaries in the world, like communist China, like Putin and other adversaries in Iran. They only win if America starts destroying itself from within. Wow. That's how empires fall. That's how countries fall. So let's debate vigorously, get involved in local politics, but don't hate the other side. Do not see them as enemies.
Wow.
All right, Shelly E.
Well, I'm tipping my hat and I'm raising my flag. And to Othniel, let me tell you why I don't hate him, because he's not a leftist. So I do hate the left, but I don't.
I think she's saying the far left.
No, I hate the left. You all know that. But I don't hate Othniel because he's not a leftist. He thinks he is, but he's not. But if you watch the show, you will see how we convinced him that he's really not a leftist. He just doesn't know it yet. But no, again, I'm raising my flag all summer long, all the rest of the year. I'm raising my flag and I'm tipping my hat.
All right. My final thought for the night is, I think I saw some comments. I'm talking to Black people. Wake the hell up and stop voting your skin color. One, if you claim to be Bible believer, that is not of the Bible. We are not to vote based on our skin color. Start voting based on what is best for your community. And sometimes just because the person is of the same skin color does not mean it's best for your community. Look at what people are saying. Think about what they have going for them and their ideologies and things like that. And look at that. And don't just vote based on skin color, because it's been ruining our community for decades. It's not good for us. It's not of God. Wake up. Wake up. So that's what I'm here to say. Again, our mantra for 2024 is to be aware and prepare. Guys, we are no longer talking to the sheep. We are talking to the lions. We're trying to wake you up. We're trying to make you aware of what's going on and then to prepare for it. So that does it for us tonight. Until next time, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.
Bye.